Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Email Marketing Masterclass. The session is approximately 1 hour. Don't worry if you can't stay for the whole thing. We will have this recorded and ready for you. It looks like we've got plenty of participants today. Thank you all for joining this live session. Again, this will all be recorded, and you can watch this at your leisure if you need to up on our website where you signed up. I am your venerable host. My name is Kirk Bentley. I will be your email professor for about the next hour or so. Um, Many of you know me. I have been working with arts and email for a little over 15 years now. There's lots of ways you can follow me. I tweet a lot about the arts and email geekery. So if you want to follow me there at Very Bentley or at Wordfly, you can follow our official tweets there. And check us out also at the Email Museum. Feel free to email me directly anytime. I always love to hear from you guys. And on that note, I'm opening my calendar during the COVID crisis to offer free arts email consulting. So if that's something you're interested in, there's really no agenda. There's no right or wrong questions you need to have, but it's a free 30-minute session that you can schedule with me. Just shoot me an email at kirk.bentley@wordfly. I'll send you my calendar and we can book some time. This could be for anything. How to use email right now, what other organizations are doing right now. We could take a holistic review of your entire program. This isn't going to last forever, guys. Your doors are going to open. And I know, I absolutely know 100%. In fact, I'm really excited for it. People are going to be coming to the theater and the symphony and the museums more than ever because all that pent up demand, people are just going to freak out. So make sure you're ready for that volume because it's coming, guys. Um, it's out there. So if you want to talk to me about this, just shoot me an email and we'll get a session on the books for you. One more little note, this is still here. Hey, everyone's going online engagement right now. Well, hey, we started pretty much as an online museum. So the Museum of Modern Email, we've got tons of great examples. If you're looking for inspiration, maybe just bored, want to do something, while away the day, check out museumofmodernemail.com. There's a whole slew of just absolutely gorgeous email. They're all from the arts, every sector, and you can sort by automations, by newsletter, by all kinds of things. So definitely check that out as well. All right, so let's dive into the meat of this. We have got a very full agenda. When I went back to school a few years ago and did kind of a brush up on my business skills, one of the things I enjoyed so much were case studies of businesses and techniques and strategies that had succeeded, oftentimes failed, and to really dive into what happened. What maybe the CEO or the marketing people did right, what they did wrong, and really dissecting that. And so what I've tried to do here in the email marketing masterclass is sort of copy that idea. So we're going to look at 3 different cases, and we're going to talk about the Royal Albert Hall, the Kennedy Center, and the New 42. Our first case is about post-show engagement. Secondly, we'll be talking about how to increase development. This second case here is just a real zinger. If you have to leave, make sure you come back and check this one out, because what Miles and his crew did at Kennedy Center to basically double the development dollars using email really is a great story. So come back and check that out. And then, of course, not to be outdone, Jamie and her team back at New 42 in New York, the amazing work they're always doing with email, especially on this one with automation and dynamic content. But I want to start with our first one in the UK, Royal Albert Hall. Love these guys. So we're going to talk about post-show emails. If you're out there and thinking, I'm a tiny little company, I just have I'm a marketing team of 1 or 1.5. This is your case study, okay? Because there's no reason you can't copy what these guys are doing. This was just a bright idea that someone had there. I love this kind of thing. Just a great little idea they had, and they've really turned it into something that their fans and followers love. So these are emails that get sent out directly after the performance. A few venue facts. Keep in mind, I created this deck, maybe, this webinar maybe a few months ago. So some of this might be a little outdated by now, but you get the idea. This is a hugely popular venue, 390 shows, 400 events, 842,000 email subscribers, probably a lot more than that. They did 1,200 campaigns in 2018. I think just a little bit more than that. So these guys send a ton of email, 20 million emails a year. So big, giant venue, right? Biggest of the big. But what I love about what they're doing here is that this post-show engagement thing is really not very sophisticated. It's really smart, but it's not really too technologically tough to do. So these folks did a little bit of research, working with MHM, and they found out that most of their people who come to their shows could be called expression people, right? They don't really like being marketed to. They want to be inside. They want to be part of the club, part of the conversation, right? Who doesn't want to feel that way? But to really reach these people, it has to be a very personal, a very emotional connection. It has to feel more like a friend sent you something. And so with that in mind, they decided to start sending out a post-show email. This started in 2016 with the idea of kind of extending the experience. People would come to Royal Albert Hall and they'd create these amazing memories. The performances that have, the performers that have played at Royal Albert Hall are just outrageous. It's everyone who's famous. So lots of great memories there. So they wanted to try to extend that. They started out with, they started out pretty simply. They wanted to A/B test everything, and they just wanted to make this bespoke. Just do it right after the show, put in custom photography, and send it out manually. And so that's what they did. They started this here with this performance in March of 2016. So you can see it's not really too not too fancy, just some text, some great looking images. They tried to see if they could get people to engage on Facebook and Twitter. They also were smart and started promoting. This is kind of if you enjoyed this show, you might also be interested in this performance. So that's kind of an interesting new technique. That's really smart. And then they also set up a gallery. So if you look at this link here, just about halfway through that page, you'll see that we've got an image gallery, and they just set that up on their site, and it did really, really well. So it was just a blog post with a bunch of just beautiful images from the show. Absolutely stunning, amazing, great lighting, super cool looking stage set. So people loved it, so they kept doing it, right? That did pretty well. 635 were delivered, huge open rate, 76%, 44% click rate. If you look at the heat map here from Wordfly, just all kinds of good stuff happening here, right? So lots of people wanting to browse on those images, watch videos, forwarding to a friend, that's always great. And then, Facebook and social, just okay, 3%, not bad. So they just kept working on this theme and just kind of kept trying different things. What I love about their approach on this is very scientific, it's very experimental, and like so many great things, it's just like we just did it. They just kind of went for it and did it and made it happen and just kind of improved as they went along. And so again, really good open and click rate on this one. Sent to over 2,000 attendees, 55% click rate. Get out of here. When do you see that? So tons of people sharing those photos, going to the about section. Our RHA 150, I'll talk about that, but that's the 150th anniversary. That's something that they started putting in there to talk about their upcoming 150th anniversary. Again, Facebook and Instagram doing okay, but maybe not quite as big as you would expect. So kind of an interesting little trend that they noticed there as well. Eric Clapton, him and Royal Albert Hall have a very special, long time relationship. And so he's got, huge fans in the UK who, he sold out several shows in a row. So what they did for this was kind of interesting. They definitely had, they had a shop. So they had a shop that they could promote. They had a lot of items in the Eric Clapton shop, so they promoted that. They also created some special videos with Eric Clapton about his memories from playing at Royal Albert Hall, and that was just really neat. And then of course you can also see just on the third panel there, again, probably if you're into Clapton, you're probably into the Beatles, might want to check that out. So just promoting additional events that are coming up later. So this is a few years later, but you can see, this really kept performing. That shop did really well. They ended up selling out of all of the stuff in the shop. Look at that Beatles show, that did really well. The interview did really well. Viewing online, the Royal Albert Hall 150, not great, but at least, they're charting, right? Those are decent numbers. So really cool stuff here. I just love the way that this was all just put together quickly. It's not very technically sophisticated, and they have multiple versions of this that they would send out. Eric Clapton in the subject line here, you can see on the left, returns for, show number 210. 210 shows there. Pretty amazing accomplishment. In this one, you could check out the set list and also watch Eric's memories. That you can see how they kind of played with the design a little bit, A/B testing everything. So those turned into buttons in that first big panel there. Then you could download the set list. Again, you could go check out the shop. Pretty good set list. It was a good show. So you can see here that set list that performed really well. So things like that really, increase the engagement, those do really well. And that was their intent for this whole thing, to extend that experience through these emails. Okay, let's talk about the Royal Albert Hall 150. So this was a really, a really beautiful thing that they were doing to kind of talk about the history of the venue. And what they wanted to do was encourage people to share their memories by uploading them to the site. So, in the emails they would send out, you could do that through those emails. And just a quick video about what this whole thing was about.
The fact that I could probably just, if I looked hard enough, stepped up to the front of the stage and ducked under the lights, I'd be able to see everyone that's in there. It's like being at a party where you're the band.
I've had many, many great nights here. Probably my favourite was when I got to play with Paul McCartney. That was like a childhood dream come true.
So I won't ruin the surprise. You can go and watch that. I think that's still up on their website. Really, really neat stuff there. It's a really great video, but for the sake of time, I'm going to cut it a little short so we can keep looking at these fantastic emails. So where are we today? Well, here we are, 2019, so a few years later. They're still experimenting with this, right? Dropping in now. They've changed this. They've really highlighted that image on the very top of the email. They put it in view gallery, sort of like a little layover on top of that, which, hint, hint, you could do that in WordFly using our image editor. So, look at that. It's a nice animated GIF. Thanks for visiting. Again, still promoting some of the other shows, talking about some of the other things that you can do to extend your visit, visiting the shop. And again, they're still experimenting getting the social. I think one of the interesting things, and what they weren't ashamed of at all, was just that, the social part of this never really took off. And they've experimented with it in a lot of different ways, moving the social buttons here, putting them there, and it really kind of stuck around that 1% to 3%. It wasn't huge. Nothing to feel bad about, but I think what I really admired was just their ability to stick with it and move around those links and try putting them in different parts of the email. It's just a real experimental approach, which I really appreciated. And they kept really detailed records on that. They always used the data and the reporting that they pulled from WordFly to make the choices on this. So it was not happenstance. So, while I think, there is an element to this that is easy, I think there's another part of this that just really shows how organized and detailed and thoughtful that the folks at Royal Albert Hall were when they put this together. So kudos to Claire and your team. If you're out there listening, great job on this. So, just kind of a wrap up here on that last one. Again, the opens and clicks are still huge, 60% open, 31% click. Great for looking at that gallery. So final wrap-up review, over the last 12 months, their open rates are huge, right? 60% open. 18% click rates. This was totally bespoke. They handmade each of these, for every show, which is, probably a lot of work, but this really paid off. There's tons of increased engagement. It created revenue that simply was not there before. And all told, excuse me, in 12 months, this created $77,000 of just net new revenue. So that's really something to write home about, I think. Beyond, if people in your organization aren't that impressed by quote unquote engagement, numbers usually impress people up at the top. So if you can show them that you're creating, revenue that wasn't there before, that looks really good for you. So great job, Royal Albert Hall. That is case study number 1. Final, just nice shot. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot wait until this whole thing is over and we can gather again like that again soon. But until then, we have another case study to talk about. So this is the Kennedy Center. This is a really neat case study. I just love digging into this. Miles and his team on the development side of things at the Kennedy Center really took some big risks. They made some bold moves, and it has paid off with huge dividends. So I'm going to walk you through this. This is the longest of the 3. And I think there's a lot to go through here that's really important. So if you're on the development side of things, this is a great one to dig into, and I'm sure Miles King would be happy to hear from you if you have more questions about this. I'll just be straightforward with you here. This can get a little confusing at times because they did so much. It is such an expansive program for their development team that some of these things can start to just kind of fade into one another. So don't be intimidated by that. I think there are some real key elements about this case study that you should walk away with today. And it's not about the volume you're sending, the amount of, or cadence, but it's really, I think, more about the approach. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at this. You have to remember the Kennedy Center is one of the, the biggest, most high-profile art centers in the world. They have over 3,500 shows a year, plus productions that are seen by over 20 million on TV and other broadcasts and streaming. They've got over 1 million email subscribers. In 2018, they did nearly 1,600 campaigns. I think they were about that, probably a little bit more in 2019. And they send about 30 million emails a year. So they're not shy about sending email, which I love because email works. You're not supposed to read the words on a slide, but I'll just do it because I think this is impactful. As fundraisers, we get way too afraid of over-emailing. But with proper segmentation and a well thought out strategy, increased email volume can lead to much greater returns. Wow, that is a bold statement, and you know what? You win. I love that because I think that it's so true. Many of us are afraid of ticking people off by sending too much email, just being obnoxious, knocking on the door too much. But I think especially now, we're going to have to be bold and reach out as often as we can. So a little bit of background on this. In this program began in 2018. And really what it began with was a split between marketing and development. So basically, they had it set up where marketing sort of, development sort of like laid under, was under the marketing umbrella. And what they did was they split those two teams off. They coordinated on dates and lists and management, things like that. But development started to run all of their own campaigns. They took a much more strategic approach. And as Miles said in that quote, they got very targeted and segmented. So here's where it really came together. You can see that in 2016, 17, when development was underneath marketing, it was pretty flat. As they started to take control, those numbers really went off the charts. And I know this, there's another year that needs to come after here, but they did hit that goal. They passed 800,000 easily. So, just imagine, since fiscal year 2016, contributions from email have doubled. Could you imagine if you guys could double your contributions from email? That would be amazing. So here's how these guys did it. They strategically increased the volume, right? So it's not just about sending more email. That doesn't work. You've got to be strategic and thoughtful about it. So I know that a lot of people don't believe me when I say it's okay to send more email, but I want to take a look at some of the data because I think that this proves my point pretty well. So there's a lot to look at here, but in orange are emails sent, okay, how many were sent out. In blue was the revenue and the contributions received from those emails. And then in green is the associated unsubscribe rate. So that green number is really important because for the most part, it's stuck around the same, right? So there was a bump up in 2017. It went up to, 15. But for the most part, it's hung around 7, 6 or 10. I don't think that the unsubscribe rate has gone up enough in any of those years that would significantly deter anyone from sending more email. So, what I take from this data are two things. One, sending more email does not dramatically increase your unsubscribe rate. And two, sending more email does dramatically increase the amount of revenue that you're making. So, look, they went from sending just under 700,000 emails in 2016 to, in 2019, 3.2 million. And the revenue, as we talked about, it's basically doubled. It went from just under 4 to what ended up being about a little over 8. So I think this is a great slide to share with your team. If they're worried about sending too much email, show this example, show this data. It really does not support the idea that sending more email creates, lower revenue and higher unsubscribe rate. It's in fact just the opposite. Let's talk about this strategic approach that they employed. So this was about engagement, which I love, right? It's not just about sticking the hat out, because goodness knows, there's lots of that going on right now. And there will definitely be a lot more of that going on later in 2020 for sure. So this is about engagement. It's about the kind of engagement probably a lot of you are trying to ramp up right now. How do we continue, to open the doors to our museum, open the doors to our theater and our symphony and our players and our people? How do we engage people and not just stick the hat out first, right? So that's what it was really about. The segmentation was based on behavior. So we'll look at that. They created a whole series of donor newsletters. They talked about events and invitations, RSVPs and solicitations. So, it was really about creating engagement with events. And of course, it was all timely and interesting and relevant like it always should be. And they A/B tested everything. So one of the first things they did was they increased e-renewals. So e-renewals are a significant source of contributed revenue. And this went, the high dollar ask went from 0 a month to just 1 a month. Not a huge increase. And then you can see on the low dollar, they went from 3 a month to 6 a month. So they doubled the amount of times they were emailing people on those. And of course, this had all been pulled out of the marketing. This was kind of injected into the marketing stuff as well. And so they kind of separated this out and made these new e-renewals. So, a lot to look at in these, but these renewal emails, which you could automate, by the way, if you wanted to in WordFly, these really netted a lot of renewals for them. They also focused on ticket priority. That was a big thing that they realized people were signing up for when they signed up for, when they bought a membership, was to get early access to tickets. This also became a very big source of donations. You'll notice that that Donate Now button, if you go to the third panel on the right, or the second panel, excuse me, about midway down, thank you for your support of the Kennedy Center, Donate Now. That ended up becoming very important, and that was then included on all of the emails after that. So even though they're just announcing that, hey, we're alerting you, there's ticket priority, early access for members is coming up, also reminding you that the reason you're getting this access is because you're a member, and we still need your help, so donate now. So just keeping that front and center really paid off. And they tested the location of that button all over the place, put it at the top, at the bottom. So love that as well. All right, so here's where it gets a little bit more complicated. So they added 3 donor newsletters, monthly and quarterly, 3 entirely new newsletters. As we mentioned, they originally relied on the marketing newsletter. So now they have dedicated low and high dollar versions. These include a thank you letter, institutional highlights, and work with the marketing to promote, and where they work with marketing to promote specific shows, excuse me. And then donors get the renewal ask. Everyone else got an additional gift, which used dynamic tags. So let's just kind of take a look at this. Excuse me while I just take a quick sip of water. So again, as I mentioned, this does get a little bit dense here, but just to show you what they did. So you can see on the left, there's the monthly low member, right? So they created that. They created a monthly high donor and a quarterly high. So, kind of a similar look to all of these, but, they experimented a lot with the different types of content that would go into these. You can notice that donate now button on the far left, that's way up at the top. It lives in other places in these different emails. So this was all new. They've really never had, these types of emails that were separate from marketing before. So those were brand new, 3 entirely. So it's, again, not just about sending more of the same kind of emails you already have. They created, 3 new entirely different newsletters for different segments. And then they emailed to them a lot. Right. So that's your strategic approach, right? Invitations and RSVPs. So they increased the amount of emails that were sent out for events. So you can see those here, meet the conductor, just lots of, if you were signed up for an event, they invited you to additional events that you could attend, things like that. And then the year-end match. So these were only sent out to current donors, right? Expanding into non-donor segments later on. So this was basically, asking for some kind of match, if your employer would match or anything like that. This was the ask for that. They focused a lot on testing for all of these new newsletters and emails that they created, testing nearly 100% of all the larger campaigns. So this really helped them to refine the message and refine just what types of content was working. They moved around the button location. They tried different content. They also put in things like a countdown clock 1 on this one. They also started to engage on what they called their note card campaign. This was something that they had done in the past where, essentially members would receive a note card. Like a postcard or a set of postcards of the organization. And so really this was kind of a cultivation strategy. I just love this technique. I think it's so cool. It basically combines direct mail and email. So what they did was allow people to vote on what the image would be. So they sent out emails to members and lapsed members asking them to vote now and tell the Kennedy Center what should be the image on the postcard. So you can see the rotating gift there. And then this all went to a WordFly landing page that had a little survey there that you could take. So option 4, the clear winner. And you can see that this was sent to almost 30,000 people, pretty big open rate, pretty big click rate. That's for the member email. So look at that, 96% clicking on vote now. Got a lot of action on that from members. Lapsed, I love this, send to lapsed members too. This is a good way to create, some re-engagement for folks that have not renewed their membership. And they also voted, and look at that, 27% reinstated or renewed their membership. That's what you want right there. So they got over 3,000 votes. And then they sent a follow-up here that just says, a few weeks ago, we sent an email to all of our members, and here is the winner. And then it says, you'll receive your note card collection in the next couple of weeks. So I just think that's a really fun way to really tactically tie email and another channel together. And, to me, email and direct mail just work so well together in a lot of ways. Email connects all of your channels really well, but with direct mail, it creates this just really fun, I think, kind of thing. You've got, a mailbox at your house, you've got an inbox at your house and your computer. So it's a neat way to tie those together. So all told, if we look at this whole thing, just a lot of great wins here. 80% open, 3% click rate. Just performed really well. So in this reveal email too, just a couple of things to mention. This was all full of dynamic content. So you want to make sure that that looks really special and it's got first name in there. So, you want to make sure that if you're going to send, really, I think, personal emails like this, put some personal information in there. Don't be afraid to tap into that content you've got in your database. All right, so just to review, they had a very thoughtful strategic plan to increase the volume of email, and they made a bet. They made a bet basically that they could increase the volume, their unsubscribe rate, and that would lead to increased revenue, and it did. So, they increased their volume 80%. Open rate was about 43%. Unsubscribe rate basically hovered right around 10%, and they doubled their revenue that they earned from email. So, if you're looking for a good example of how to increase strategically the volume of your email at your organization, this is a very good case study, I think, to bring and share with your team. Sorry, one more drink of water there. All right. We're doing really good on time here. Let's talk about email case number 3. This is about customer life cycle, and this is sort of the opposite of our first case, where that one was a very bespoke, handmade email. This one also very thoughtful, I think, in terms of creating that experience up front to automate this journey around the ticket sale and the performance. So I think what we're looking at here was that this was a real successful automation plan that really paid off in hours saved and on staff hours. So let's take a look as we dive into this one. Excuse me. So in New York City, the new 42nd Street Studios, 7 historic theaters in the New York area. New Victory is New York City's first and only dedicated kids theater. I've been there several times. It is awesome. They've got about 40,000 email subscribers, probably a little more by now. That was about a year or so ago. 225 campaigns sent in 2018, approximately 115,000 emails per year. There's an amazing team over there. Jamie and her team just do really, really great, thoughtful work on the email channel. So thanks for sharing your story with the rest of the world here on this one. Just a quick background. So, in the summer, New York Victory does a summer dance performance, showcases different New York City choreographers and dance companies. It's really curated for young audiences. Gosh, I just love this. So cool. So it's a little bit different than what they might do during the normal season. There's 3 distinct programs. All the tickets are $10. And they really do a lot of automations for these short runs. So it's not a long It's not a long program. And what they did up front was, of course, they did the hard work of really selling this out. So they did a lot of work on these priority notices. The dance is on sale. Victory Dance now is on sale. You can see. So just really got the message out with just good old-fashioned marketing, a lot of emailing to folks that are, engaged fans about this this performance, this set of performances, excuse me, that are coming up. And so that all did really well, right? So they sent I think it ended up being actually quite a bit more than 67,000 sent out. So great open rate, really solid, respectable click rate there. Most people are clicking on buy tickets. That's what you want. And then specifically for the different programs, they had them listed down there below. So, that's how they created the ticket purchase, right? So that was good old-fashioned marketing, just sending out your emails, getting people to buy tickets. What happens after that? That's what we're going to look at. So they've bought their tickets. The first thing that happens is that they're going to get a performance reminder. So this is an automated email that comes out from Wordfly, and it's pulling in data from their CRM, Tessitura. So let's just dissect this really quickly. You can see they've got their subject line up there, planning your trip to the Victory Dance, right? So it's got the time, see you on Thursday at 7 p.m. It's also got the number of tickets. You have bought, X number of tickets to the production of XYZ. So they're just pulling that number in and pulling that production name in, and then the performance date, number 3, that's getting pulled in. So those are all just data fields. That's pretty simple dynamic content that's just, getting pulled in the list and injected into the email. But it's valuable, right? This is a transactional type of confirmation email. You need this kind of that kind of information in there. And then what to do when you arrive for the production. So arrival advice for the show you're going to see at the Victory Theater. There's a map, right? Getting here, all that stuff you'd expect. It's just a really nice, solid way to help people understand, where to go and what to do when they're going to the performance. I also love donating the ticket back. So if they have a spare ticket or someone can't go, they can donate that back and they'll give it to someone else who needs it. So these do really well, right? And that spare ticket does really well. Look at that, 27%. View on the web, visitor info, Google Maps, family activities beforehand. If you show up early, there's family activities that you can do beforehand. So these performed really, really well. Okay, so next in line is the next email you get is easier arrival for the Victory Dance Program A. And this is get your tickets on your mobile phone. So first thing to note is that this looks good on my mobile phone, right? So you want to make sure that when you send an email like this out about getting tickets on your phone, that it works pretty well and is mobile optimized on the phone, and they did a good job with this. So this just explains, how you can avoid waiting in line at will call by getting your tickets right now. Super easy. You can click that button, load mobile tickets, and this is sent on the day of the show. And of course, who wouldn't click on the skip the line button? Most people do. So this performed really well. Most people opened on mobile. It's got a great open and click rate, right? And for this example, only 322 were delivered. These are, these are kind of small numbers, but we're looking at just, one performance here. So that's the second email. And then we go to our performance. And what happens after that? So here's our follow-up automated email asking you to take a survey. How was the performance? How was your visit? Tell us one thing we did that helped you enjoy your visit and one thing that we could have done to make your visit better. I love that. One of the things that Jamie told me about using surveys for post performance is that this really created a whole new conversation at the organization, where once maybe some of this information wasn't being heard, or it was just being sent to the box office, or maybe someone who was collecting tickets, or maybe somebody called in to have a complaint. Now suddenly this was front and center. This information was being shared, around the organization. It just created a lot of different conversations that they weren't having previously about the experience of coming to the theater. So on a technology level, all these responses were sent, back to Wordfly and then right onto the CRM as well, which is kind of neat. So all this data is suddenly more accessible. It's more transparent. It's widely available in Testura for anyone to get at. They did custom responses back to the CRM. And this is just a highly flexible template. You could create a survey to ask anything. They did something which I like, which is different, which is ask questions instead of rank us or rate us, which I feel like sometimes doesn't give you that much info. So I like the way that they approach this. They asked people two very specific questions about how they could make it better and what they liked. So in review, for this automated series, they set this up for the season, albeit a short season, but they did the work up front. Of course, there is a little time that is required in getting the kind of the lists ready and the output sets, and getting your CRM Testura ready to go, and then obviously building the emails. But once you've done that work, you pretty much just hit go on these, and they run for the whole season. So these did pretty well. 60% open, 23% click, and overall, Jamie and her team estimate they saved about 200 hours of time by just automating this whole series, this whole customer journey. So, the marketing was done essentially manually using standard campaigns, although they could have automated that. And then once people bought the ticket, they were entered into this customer journey. And really, once Jamie and her team at New 42 did the work to set this up, once people entered into that customer journey, they didn't really have to do anything else. So a really nice success story there. Well, folks, those are our 3 case studies. You've just watched the email masterclass. I hope you found this valuable. Again, we'll be sending you an email when this recording is ready for viewing on the site. If you have any questions about the topics or techniques you saw today, you can always email us at support@Wordfly, or feel free to email me at kirk.bentley@Wordfly, and we'll get right back to you. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.